There was a moment in the morning when the house was still asleep, but you weren't. You didn't wake up suddenly. You woke up too early. The air felt colder than it should have been. Not freezing, just enough to notice. You lay there listening. No sound from downstairs. Only the faint hum in the walls, the quiet sound of a house holding its breath. Outside, it was still dark enough to pretend the day hadn't arrived. A street lamp stayed on longer than it should have. No alarm had gone off. No one had called you. And still, you knew. The morning hadn't started yet, but school already had. Outside, the street looked unfinished. It didn't feel like your street yet. It felt like it belonged to no one. The road was empty, not because it was early, but because no one had arrived yet. Street lamps still glowed, their yellow light spilling onto untouched pavements. No cars passed, no doors opened. The houses stood quietly, curtains drawn, windows dark, holding on to the last of the night. You could see your breath when you exhaled. Somewhere in the distance, a bus engine started, then stopped again. The day was close now, but it still hadn't claimed the street. Back inside, the house began to wake up quietly. Not all at once, just small signs that the night was loosening its grip. A light switched on downstairs, the kettle filled with water. Somewhere, a radio clicked on low, not for listening, just so the silence wouldn't feel too heavy. Footsteps moved slowly across the floor. Adult voices followed, calm, familiar, talking about ordinary things that could wait. The house felt warmer now, safer. And yet, something had already changed. This wasn't the kind of quiet that meant rest. It was the kind that meant the day had started, whether you were ready or not. Breakfast didn't feel like a meal. It felt like a pause. Toast popped up from the toaster, warm, dry at the edges. Marmalade was spread carefully, not too much, never messy. Tea steamed in familiar cups. No one spoke much. Not because there was nothing to say, but because this wasn't the time for it. You sat there quietly, hands warming against the mug, listening to the small sounds of the kitchen. Plates being set down, a chair moving slightly. Everything felt calm. And yet, you knew this wasn't comfort. It was preparation. Once breakfast was finished, the morning would no longer belong to you. The uniform waited where it had been left the night before. Cold to the touch, stiffer than your own clothes, socks pulled on carefully, shoes tied tighter than usual. The blazer sat heavy on your shoulders, not uncomfortable, just unfamiliar. Buttons fastened, a tie straightened, a badge pinned in place. Each small action felt deliberate, like steps you didn't choose but still had to take. When you looked down, you didn't quite see yourself anymore. You saw what you were expected to be. By the time the uniform was on, the morning already belonged to someone else. The door closed behind you with a soft click. Not a slam. Just enough to say it was done. Cold air hit your face immediately, sharper than you expected. You pulled your coat closer, breath turning to steam in front of you. Somewhere behind the door, the house carried on without you. A quick, "See you later," was said, already fading before it finished. The path felt different under your shoes. Louder, less forgiving. You didn't look back. There was no point. The morning had you now. The walk to school happened almost automatically. You weren't alone for long. Other children appeared along the way, stepping out from side streets, gates, driveways. No one said much. Some nodded. Some walked in pairs. Most just kept moving forward. The sound of shoes on pavement grew louder. The air filled with breath, with movement, with quiet purpose. You didn't need directions. Everyone was heading the same way. Faces looked similar in the morning light, tired, focused, already somewhere else. By the time the school came into view, you were part of something now, whether you wanted to be or not. The gates were already open. You could hear the school before you reached it. Voices overlapped, shoes scraped across concrete, bags thudded to the ground. The quiet from earlier vanished all at once. There was no single sound to focus on anymore, just noise, movement, rules returning. Teachers stood where they always did, watching, counting, already in control of the day. You stepped through the gates without stopping. Everyone did. Somewhere above it all, the first bell rang. Sharp, unavoidable, and just like that, the morning was no longer yours. Once the noise settled, something else took its place. A tight feeling in your chest. Not panic, not fear exactly, just awareness. Of time, of where you were supposed to be. The morning moved differently now, faster, measured in bells, in lessons, in minutes that couldn't be stretched anymore. You stood still for a moment, surrounded by people, yet completely on your own. This was the feeling you never talked about. Not because it was frightening, but because it was ordinary. This wasn't fear. It was becoming older. Mornings don't feel like that now. They arrive already full. Screens light up before the room does. Voices come from everywhere at once. Messages waiting. Notifications already asking for attention. There's no moment in between. No quiet gap where the day hasn't decided what it wants from you. The cold is different now. The silence, rarer, and the waiting almost gone. Not better, not worse, just different. But sometimes when the house is still and the light outside hasn't fully changed yet, you remember that other kind of morning, the one that arrived slowly and asked nothing from you at all. That kind of morning didn't announce itself. It didn't try to be special. It just happened, quietly, before the day took over, before you learned to rush, before mornings started asking things from you. If you remember the cold air, the empty streets, the feeling of being awake before the world was ready, then that morning was yours too. So tell me, do you remember the moment before the day began?